Test, test. Can you hear us? No, that are hearing false.
Well, you're muted, Laura.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yes, very well.
Sorry, Laura.
Uh, it's been a long week.
Well, I appreciate you still coming in.
Oh, you bet. You bet.
So that's what she's gonna think of came back.
What kind of cane? Pippin cane, Brian was supposed to get your Pippin cane back. I don't know,
She can hear something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can hear us, correct?
Yes.
What's it? Brian? What's
It's
it?
one of hemp blocks.
Oh, yeah. I was again, and I'm just saying this to herself.
Weeks ago, I was, you know, I got the hemp block. I guess.
Now I got you. So you could have. Wait, I was like, it's not. It's not. It's okay. She's just saying things. She doesn't know why. Thanks, Brian. Make me look that way. Oh, she's in the bathroom. I know, because if I'm starting to ask for a vote. But we don't mention it, do we? I think this other letter is gonna be.
Well, I had noticed that he wasn't on the.
Oh.
Oh. Well, I. How are you?
No.
300.
Mhm.
No, he's not.
I can help you if you want. I've got it on.
Oh, come by. During school time.
You gotta wait for Joe.
Yeah, I know. Earlier at 5:30 in the morning, when you're morning. Oh, wow.
Executive session after executive session.
I'm a big fan. First time I had a.
No, it's just a flood fund. I just got my tax. Probably make this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it right.
Yeah, that's me with my phone. Yeah, I'd like to call me to order, join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, nothing under proclamation, so moving on to consent agenda. Brad, do you have anything else for that?
I do actually. So for the minutes for the February 9th meeting, it does say that Mayor Paulson made a motion, and so we need to amend that to Commissioner Paulson. So to adjourn.
That's on February 9th.
Yeah, so that's all the minutes for February, or for, our February, 9th, yes, meeting.
That was not us, or just going back and correct it.
Yes,
So just add that.
Yep.
Anything else?
no, nothing else here.
Okay, motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented and include the corrections that Brad stated.
I'm second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? No, Jane? All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion passed 5-0. Nothing under public comments or old business, so we're moving on to new business. Item number 1, the change of date from March 23rd, 26th meeting.
Yeah, so this is due to, we have quite a few staff being gone to, the Carrot Day conference, including the city clerk and the assistant city clerk. I was originally going to be gone for that, but I believe that my other class, kind of interfered with that. And so we had asked to move the meeting from the 23rd to the 30th to make sure that we have enough personnel here. Or like I said, originally I was supposed to be going as well, but that's why we're asking.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Or any comments from the public on that issue? Okay, if not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. To change the date of the regular commissioner meeting scheduled for March 23rd to March 30th. Staff members being away at the RWA conference in Wichita on the 23rd of March.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the change of date of the meeting from March 23rd to March 30th. Any further discussion? No, Jane? All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passed 5-0. Moving on to item 2, the housing development agreement. Brad?
So this agreement that I have for you is from Michael Webb. The developer, you'll notice that the LLC has changed names. Just because the LLC that he did have under his old, not his, the one that he uses for consulting, and so he has created a new LLC just for this project. What this really does is that this lays out what the requirements are for the developer and the city here. And so what this does say is that the city shall complete the zoning and planning preliminary and final within 60 days of the execution of this agreement. This is something that we're already in that process of. We're working with our engineering PG consultants on that. We'll actively engage in the adoption of the RHID plan, such as state law. Now, part of what this RHID is I know that we had created that was really aimed at putting in the public improvements for the project. That's the utilities, things like that. And that kind of a plan, when we take out a bond on something like that, is it's almost like a special use type thing. It's not actually backed by the full credit of the city of Hiawatha. It's backed by one of the tax revenue we will receive off of that. There's a lot that goes into that RHID, and like I said, I know that we put that plan into place. That's one of our steps. So the developer will assist with that as necessary, which is good because I had a good conversation with them earlier about that. The city, through its engineer, will complete all necessary plans and perform public improvement requirements and issue any construction bids within 60 days of approval of the final plan. This is also something that we've already done for the most part. We already have those preliminary construction plans, estimate of costs, things like that. Construction of the public improvements should would commence on or be no later than August 3rd of this year. So 2026. And the way that this agreement states is that completion of all units is anticipated for the second quarter of 2027. So that kind of gives a good idea of what the timeline is for this project. And really what this does, so it's also one of the requirements of the MIH from the Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, is we have to be able to spell out what the, what each party's responsibilities are. And so this is all kind of very involved. I know this is, all very fast, but there's time constraints with the kind of funding that we do have. I know MIH has time constraints on how long, these projects can last. The KHITC tax credits that the developer got, there's time constraints on all of this. And so this is why we're moving forward as quickly as we are. And so I don't have any questions that anybody might have or any comments.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the city is responsible for the $885,820.
That's correct, yes.
Is there any of this that we're gonna receive in a grant or anything like that?
And so what this is that's not part of the MIH grant that we actually got, no. And so this is all going to be funded by whatever the difference is between what the land is valued at now in the RHID, which is $0 because it's city property. I mean, I think there's a little bit of cost there just because we cash rent that out. As opposed to what the development, as opposed to what that is after the development. There's a few protections there, especially for the school district. They have statutory, there are 20 mills that they have to have. And so there's actually some protections for the school district on part of this, and so there's mills that will be protected under that, so those will still go to the school district. This is really going to be something that has to be approved between the county, the city, and the school in order to move forward. As far as how much that will cover, it'll either cover a portion or all of it. We don't know that quite yet because we have to go through those calculations and figure that out. But that is what the RHID is set up for. But we also have other funds available that we could use towards this project if there's a funding gap.
Well, I had talked to an adjoining city and they do like a 35-65 split with the developer and the city paying 35% of the infrastructure and developers paying 65%. That's a lot of money for us to come up with.
And then, just on a side note though, didn't you say this is worst case? That there are things.
Yeah, and so the engineer's estimate of cost was based upon us contracting this out. Since we're doing the work ourselves, that will save some of the cost. I don't know I can't quantify that though, right? The only thing I can quantify is what that original estimated cost is, and so that's why I presented that. And so as far as like the electrical, the gas, and any other utility that will be necessary to get it out there, that will be the developer's responsibility. That isn't our responsibility to do that. It's just really those public improvements like the water sewer in the street. That's fine as well.
And trees,
Yeah,
street trees.
yeah.
There's. I don't know, it seems like if the developer needs it, he could shell in some of this. It just seems like, yeah, I get it, it's a lot of money to do what they're doing. But I know, when will we receive tax revenue on it? Because we're not gonna charge them taxes for how many years?
Until you would start seeing tax revenue from the RHID. So we wouldn't, as a city, when I think the RHIDs are set up for 25 years.
But just to be sure, we're not raising taxes ourselves to help pay for this. We've got other things in place, right?
That's correct, yes.
I'd just like to add that, I mean, we've already put $80,000 in the land out there to have it, um, plotted out for everything. And the land itself, has a fair chunk value of probably 30 to 50,000. The taxpayer is gonna be in this over $1 million just locally, and then with the grant, it's gonna be $1.6 million at least that the taxpayer is putting into this project. This developer is gonna take this money and we're not gonna have any skin in the game after this is all said and done. I don't know if this property will qualify for the new 10-year tax abatement for new construction. So that would also alleviate the plan of paying back any of this with tax revenue for the next, well, I mean, it's a progressive rate, but it wouldn't be as much as it would be if we denied that portion of it at least. So it's all gonna, the number one investor in in this thing right now is absolutely the taxpayer. And it's not felt right with me from the beginning, and it still doesn't even more now. So I can't support this any longer.
I mean, the developer has pledged about 1.7 million as part of what his investment or what their investment is going to be on this project. I know that the public improvements, whatever they come out is, if it's 900,000, I know that we've also put 77,000 into it. But the other 600,000, that's part of that MIH grant that's also out there for that. And so really what this is in order to make something like this economically feasible or profitable for a developer, these are usually the types of things that have to happen in order to entice developers to want to do projects like this. It makes it make sense for them. And so this is, like I said,
You said they're putting in 1.7 million?
yes,
That's what the duplexes cost.
that's what the construction cost is,
Construction cost is.
estimated to be.
I mean, this is something we've been working on for the past three years. I'd hate to see that we've made it to this point and then all of a sudden we just slam the brakes on it. We keep saying we need housing in Hiawatha. So to me, it's time to put up or shut up. I guess, I don't know how else we'll be able to do the extent of what's out there without the developer we have in place and the MIH and all of that, so.
Is there any possible way that he may want to do a split? Cover some of that cost?
I have not discussed that with him at all, no. I just have not discussed that. I'm not saying it's not possible, I just have not discussed that with him.
I mean, this has gone from someone needing some land to build apartments and the city donating it to it costing the taxpayers $1 million. And we're just driving this home because we're on a time crunch. I mean, they're gonna break land on this apartment complex before we ever get the stoplight that was approved over a year ago. So, I mean, we just can't keep pushing this. I mean, this $900,000 expense was literally dropped on me 6 hours ago. That's not even reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, though, we have been discussing this for a long time as far as what our responsibility here was going to be. Whether in public meetings or in communication, it has been discussed. And so,
Was there ever a $900,000 price tag tied anywhere close to what we were discussing?
no, because we didn't know what the costs were going to be.
Okay, That's the point I'm saying, Brad.
But we
Um,
still don't know what those costs are, right? Like we said, that was bidding it out. We really don't know what that cost is going to be. That's the best number I have right now.
so how can we even approve something that we don't know what it's gonna cost?
Because we're going to have to do this, go down this road no matter what that costs. I mean, there's a reason why we set up all the steps that we've done to this point. I mean, with the RHID, with every step that we put in place, even paying off bonds early, there's a reason why we did such a thing. It was really to prepare for this moment, for this expense that we knew was coming.
I have never heard that we were gonna have to take a bond for this. That has never been said. Up until last night when you told me about 7 hours before the meeting. And when I asked how we're gonna pay for this. Cause I knew we were gonna have to have a bond once I seen the price tag. So,
I've had communications many times before.
okay, well, I must have missed it. I'm sorry. Tom or anybody else, has anybody else heard of a bond? Laura, have you heard of a bond for this?
We've talked about different funding measures,
But a bond?
not to my knowledge, no.
Right. So,
Or economic development surplus that we have,
I don't have that number in front of me.
but we were gonna use that, some of that money for this, right?
Yes, in case we needed it, yes.
Well, if the city does the labor on the underground utility, that knock off. I don't have an estimate on that. We'll be discussing.
And then we talked about the lines that would go in. We have some of that water line already, right?
Oh, the sewer line, yes.
The sewer line. So I mean, as we look at this, you keep chipping stuff off to make it a little bit more palatable. I don't know, I see it's gonna be expensive to build no matter what. But we have everything in place to be able to at least start moving forward.
I just believe this is blown out of proportion. This is blown into something totally different that we're not prepared to do. And with the prices of taxes that have been going up lately, this is just unreasonable. I mean, I want housing as much as everybody, but we can't put the expense on the taxpayer. I would also like to add, the reason that I ran for this commission is because when I was looking at building houses across from my land on the 5 acres, the city restricted me to only putting 2 houses on that land. I wanted to put 5 in. And the city said no, because I had to run $100,000 worth of sewer and utilities if I went over 2, that became a development. So in my circumstance, the city said no, but in this circumstance, we're gonna give someone $1 million, basically. So this is just sprung on us all at once. It's unreasonable and it's not fair to the taxpayer. It's like getting a new car, showing it off to all your neighbors and making all the neighbors pay for it.
So Brad, can you say again exactly how we would come up with this 800,000? Just so I can hear it again.
And so what you would have to do in this case is the RHID was set up to secure money for this project. In order to secure money for the project, you would have to talk to bond counsel in order to get that done. And so the bond that I'm talking about would be secured by the RHID, which is the entire intent of the RHID. Any excess money that we have available from the economic development tax, any funding gap that we might have can be closed with those funds. And so that is a mechanism that we would use in this case.
Like I said, we did this, that's why we paid off some of our bonds earlier, so we would know, so we knew that we would still, without impacting the taxpayer, additional funds, we would be able to move forward on this, correct?
That's correct, yeah, and so that's the economic development sales tax that we have. It brings in roughly, $220,000 a year. I mean, it's sales tax money, you always wanna be conservative about what, how much money that can bring in. If you figure 200,000, which historically is, I'm comfortable saying that number. We have 9 years left, so that sales tax ends in, 2035. And so even at $200,000 plus, if we do have a fund balance right now, I just don't know what that number is off the top of my head. You're talking about, 1.8 million just in that amount alone. And that's economic development tax money. Housing is broadly available for economic development tax. You can use kind of those dollars for that type of money. Otherwise, it's pretty specific. It has to be used for economic development purposes of some kind. It's that course of sales tax that was passed as part of, I believe we had a few bonds. One of them was Crosswinds and one of them was Hemisphere, I believe. And so those were the two bonds that we were talking about, trying to get an industrial park, and, giving some incentives to our other businesses.
I have a lot better understanding of the fund now. We've discussed several times different ways to finance this, and that fund, when I say we didn't quote unquote discuss bond, we discussed the fund. And also the economic development, the sales tax, that sort of thing, it can only be used for certain things, correct?
That's correct, yeah, and so it has to be used for some type of purpose that's tied back in. And so one of the questions very early on that I posed to our bond attorney was, does housing qualify as part of economic development? And he assured me that yes, it does. And so that would be Kevin Cowan, who was part of Gilmore Bell. And that was an email exchange that I had with him many months ago. That's probably been more than about a year ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if we went and obtained a bond for this, if I'm hearing you, then we use that, the yearly income we get off of that sales tax or economic development to pay it off the bond, to pay down the bond? or pay
You
the bond
can
payment?
use some of that money to help pay down that bond, yes. Well, the RHID does have set forth in that though, is that you can't mix funds, and so we would take a bond out on the RHID itself and leave that alone. If we ever wanted to pay off extra parts of that with money that we receive from that economic development sales tax, we could do that, yes. We just can't mix funds as far as the bond itself. If that makes sense.
So we can make sure I heard that right, but if we could use if we set it up right, we could use the sales tax money to pay the bond payments?
You can use sales tax money to fill in a gap, yes. But it could not be a part of that bond necessarily because of the special nature of RHID.
Do we have enough years left on the bond or on the tax to actually put a bond in place for it to be paid off by the time the sales tax expired? Or have we looked into that?
And so that's sales tax that were in question sunsets in 2035. And so, like I said, that's 9 years away. And so when I was talking about this originally in some of my past communications, and even going back to budget season last year, that's part of some of what I was saying about how we have a sum of money that we need to figure out something to do with, because we have, at that time, I still figure about that. And it's conservative, but about 1.8 million is where I'm at on that, is what we have left in the economic sales tax money. And so what we have here in the development, even if we had no RHID money, it takes up about half of that, or it takes up half of that. And so we still have the other half that we need to figure out something else to do.
But
Now,
half of it is without interest, and they're going to charge us interest over 9 years if we get a bond. So it's going to chew up. It's going to chew up a good portion of what we'll have in the account.
So
So,
the RHA, the only thing that we're gonna take a bond out is whatever's on the RHID.
well, my thought on this isn't, I mean, Fall City's building, small spec houses on open lots. And I think that, for what we're putting into this project, the city could take those funds and actually put small houses on our open lots. And then have some that we would actually be owners of something and that we could sell afterwards. This is just money that's just gone. And again, Fall City's doing this right
Yeah, I
now.
mean, as far as that site itself goes, and so right now we have nothing on that site. And so no matter what we did going forward into the future, we would have to put utilities out there. As part of that, I mean, I know I talked about this when we went through the engineering for this, and part of the reasoning why I was, you know, saying that why I recommended that we do the engineering is because the way I figured it, if we were going to be doing this type of a project, no matter what it looked like, these were all bridges that we were gonna have to cross at some point. We're gonna have to get utilities out there. We're gonna have to get sewer, water, we're gonna have to do grading, we're still gonna have to have the same type of engineering done. It's just this part is we're kind of focused right now, and like I said back then, you know, the rest of that project is still something that has kind of yet to be determined. And so right now, we've been focusing on just a small portion, about 3.5 acres of the whole, I think it's around 38 acres that's out there. We've been focused on kind of a small portion of it, but the project is actually larger than just what this MIH project did. And we would have had to put utilities out there for anything that will. I mean, there's certain, you know, so that's why, you know, when I talk about these things, I mean, I'm not talking about these things. I believe why my recommendations are where they are is because I do believe that this is the best thing for Hiawatha moving forward. You know, this is a project that we have in hand that we can move forward with now. But I mean, I'm not making these recommendations based off anything other than what I think is best for the city. And so
But
this is a
I would
housing project.
I would also add that, you know, at $1 million expense, you could also put houses out there around the outside and have them on septic because there's plenty of land on 2 acres or even 1.5 acres where if it's going to cost the city $1 million, then you would just tell the homeowner that these are going to be septic homes, and a lot of people would be very happy with that as well. So there's other ways of doing this besides just cutting a check to somebody for $1 million. Again, if this wasn't sprung on me in 6-7 hours before the meeting, maybe I could have some more time to process this. But this is an unreasonable timeline, and to the minimum, it should be tabled.
Yeah, but for the past 3 years, we've been talking about doing this exact same thing with these duplexes. This is what we've always been focused on, which I know, Brian, you've never really been a fan of, but it's what we've been coming back to every year. And so to say it's just been sprung on us, I don't think that's fair. Yes, this hard number in front of us, but what can you do? We've only got so much time. And I still hear my city administrator saying, this is the worst case. This is the most it's gonna be. So I don't feel like these things have been sprung on us. We've been working towards this for 3 years. And I mean, we are on a time crunch, but it is something that's good for Hiawatha. There's still possibilities from what I understand, if there's still another 30 acres or 25 acres out there, that if we wanted to do something additional, like the bigger lots with the septic system, that's fine, but we also need some smaller things that, I mean, housing for anybody, let's be honest, is difficult to afford. But this will be at least the closest we can get to being doable. And if you said that we're gonna have more money in our economic development, then why don't we look at, Brian, you mentioned putting houses up in some of our open lots. I'm not saying that's something we can't look at as well. I mean, I don't know why, if we have that much money in economic development, why it has to be either or, why can't we look at both? But like I said, we've been working hard for 3 years, as well as Heffed and Michaela to try and get this thing, the MIH grant passed. And to now all of a sudden they have it in our laps and go, oops, just kidding, it's gonna cost more money. When we're already being told it's not gonna increase our taxes. We have ways to fund it. You know,
Then would it hurt to ask him to split this?
well, I don't know if he's already putting in 1.7 million. And then, hey, we're gonna all of a sudden throw another, whatever, 500,000 onto it. I don't know. Cause I would imagine there's some risk involved coming here, just smaller town and you don't know. So we're lucky that he's willing to take this job on. We've already lost the first developer we had. He stuck with us for 2 years and then just didn't fit his time frame for the third. So,
Well, to the minimum, we should have money in an escrow or something from him, just to protect ourselves. I believe the housing development, well, it's Middendorf's neighborhood. If I remember correctly, that was started years ago, and then that developer just rolled out of town and did not do anything that he said he was going to do. So I guess you also, there's other ways of doing the excuse me, the RHI, is it RHID? Sorry, my abbreviations aren't, I haven't had my coffee yet, but there's other avenues of doing that where the developer puts up the money and then over time the city repays the developer with tax incomes. So basically we're doing the avenue of this plan that puts all the liability onto the city. If you just read about how those work, there's two different ways of doing it, and we're doing the most risky way. So to a minimum, there needs to be some type of escrow account proving that the project gets through and it goes all the way through, because you can easily, these things can easily go south. I mean, it's no different than the project, in Fall City with the big plant that's going in, that those things fall through. You can do everything right at the last minute, developer pulls out, and then you're left holding a bag. So I just want to make sure that it's done correctly. And I at no point in time knew that it was going to cost $1 million to the taxpayer. Yes, I totally understand that we've been working on this for 3 years, but this is basically like building a house and then at the last second, the owner's wanting 3 times as much of what you were thinking. I was always under the impression,
just to be
excuse
clear, it's
me?
not quite a million, like, just to be clear, it's not quite a million, just like you corrected me with the stoplight when I quoted the price.
No,
And
it is $1 million because
Brad said,
because
this is at the max. I mean, there's things in there that we will be able to do as a city that's gonna take that price down. So, just like you corrected me last time about when I said close to $1 million on the stoplight, and you quickly stopped. Same thing here, it's not $1 million.
it is $1 million because they put $80,000. Can you let me talk, please?
Well,
Because we've already put $80,000 in to have the property plotted out, and the land itself is worth $30,000 to $50,000. So if we do end up doing it some with the city employees, we're still going to have expense of the crews not doing everything else that they need to be doing, and this is going to be a rather big project. I myself would even feel just more comfortable of paying somebody to come in and get it done, because it is a big job for our city guys to do. I'm sure that those lines are very deep and they're going to be a lot deeper than our crews should be digging. I would 100% say that there's a good probability that it could even cost more than 900. That is a engineer guess, just like the street light. Where you don't know until you get bids. And again, even if we do it ourselves, it costs us money. It will cost us all the supplies. The only thing we will be saving is the labor, and that will be taking away from what the guys do day in, day out, keeping the city moving. So it will be $1 million expense by the time we're done.
so Brad, as far as the agreement you have with the developer, do you feel confident that it's not something that we're gonna be, if he decided to pull out? I mean, like the concerns that Brian mentioned, what's your thought about that?
And so, I mean, I did have, you know, I did run this by our city attorney, and I know him and I have had these discussions. I've had this discussion with the developer at it, you know, just today. You know, what happens if they do pull out of this? And so I think, Andy, can you speak a little more educatedly right now?
I can give it a try. So, yeah, there's always concern that the developer could back out, I guess, or go bankrupt or something like that could happen. The way the agreement here works is that we would deed the property to him, the LLC actually, when the final plating is complete. The city would retain a lien on the property until the project is complete. So until he puts up the last condo, everything's done and approved, the city would have a lien on the property. So if there was something that fell apart, we would just foreclose that lien, get the property back in our name. So then we talk about money, because we would have been out money to build in streets, sewers, but if it's a project we're gonna do anyway, we'll have that cost one way or the other. Otherwise, we'd have to make contact with an insurance company or bonding company to recover the financial sums. But the property would be ours. That's fairly simple.
So if he doesn't complete his work, he gets done.
Right, and we get paid, the city gets paid back its expenses before he starts recovering anything through the RHID, so we get ours first. So there's, I guess, an incentive, I know that's, if there's a problem, it's not gonna be, you know, something like that, it's gonna be financial rather.
Any other questions about that?
Well, Kansas Housing has deadlines to keep this thing moving, and if we don't comply with the requirements that they have, we're gonna be in jeopardy of losing this whole thing, and if we don't get some help to get this started, we're never gonna build anything out there, the way I see it. So I know this is a lot of stuff to digest, but I mean, I think we need to keep chipping away at this and figure out how we're gonna make this work, keep it moving.
And quite frankly, this is what we hire our city administrator to do. I mean, if I can't trust Brad to know what the ins and outs, he knows way more about all this than any of us. If I can't trust Brad, then there's bigger problems than this. So,
Brad, quick question for you. It's my understanding you can't have a septic system in the city limits, is that correct?
Yes, by our current ordinances, we can't have septic systems within the city limits and or, you know, wells or anything like that either for municipal purposes or for homeowner purposes other than irrigation. You can have an irrigation well, but you can't have a well inside city limits in order to drink it of it, I guess is a good way to put it.
So if for any reason we ever opened that up and allowed septic systems, we couldn't just do that for one particular area. You'd have to do it for the whole city.
Potentially, I don't know what that looks like. I'd have to get into the legalities of all that. I know some of this stuff kind of gets into state law as well as just local ordinance.
Right. That's kind of what I was thinking. It's just, I mean, if something like that were to happen, you'd have to open it up to the rest of the city. Because it'd be, well, they can do it out there. Why can't we do it over here? Back and forth. So just something I was thinking about.
But you would just want to have a requirement of land, say
How many
1.5 acres.
I
And
see.
then that would eliminate 98% of the town besides that area.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't know all the legalities of that. I know by our current ordinances, that's not allowable. I know there's applicable state law in that. I can't cite it off the top of my head.
Mhm.
Brad, this is a good time for me to ask for public comment.
Yes.
So at this point, if there's anybody in the public who'd like to comment on this housing development agreement, you're welcome to come to the microphone.
Well done, so, mutual interesting, and first thing I'm gonna say is I always tell my kids is when you're rushing into something to take a step back and stop. because we may have you on a time crunch, that's usually when you need to take a look at things. The city, survey that was done for housing when this all started 3 years ago, the landlords in this local area, only 2 people were invited to that meeting out of the country club. And those 2 people each only owned 1 house. The rest of us didn't even know until a couple of days before, and we invited ourselves, and public comment got shut down and we weren't allowed to talk. So that's how this whole thing started with all of this. If we stop and look, rent 12, 13, 1,500, I've heard all kinds of numbers. How many people in the city of Hiawatha can actually afford that? And if we have this extra pool of money, why are we not helping current landlords fix things or helping them bring in new housing? Or the apartment complexes that we have that need new driveways and stuff to help with our elderly, why are we not using some of that money for that? You know, we're so worried about putting money in somebody else's pocket that doesn't even live here. And they're gonna be pocketing that $1,500 a month, but nothing's gonna be coming back to us. And I have an issue with, why are we not including the people who are already investing in our town? There's so many things that could be done. The rent rates on this are ridiculous. You're not addressing the properties that need to be addressed. You're not addressing the housing crisis that needs to be addressed. If we're being honest, there's a cap on what you can afford here in the city of Hiawatha with jobs and stuff, what people can pay in rent. And that price there, you're making housing for a certain criteria of people, and it's not the mid income. So if we have so much money, why are we not looking at other landlords? Why are we not looking at other things? And why are we not looking at local people to address some of these concerns? We need housing. I 110% agree. This isn't the housing we need, and there are so many other things we could be doing. But right now you have somebody who, you've all done projects. This says 900,000. We're hoping that's not what it is. How can we crunch things off? But you also know things come up. And with other projects, how many things get added, or this needs to be done, or that needs to be done. Our citizens can't get curbs and gutters replaced without having to pay a certain percentage of that. We have to pay to put in our own sidewalks. So why are we paying for all of that stuff to be done for somebody else, for them to pocket every single one of those rents every single month? I don't think you guys have done enough talking with other landlords and the people who are already here. And in all honesty, it has caused a lot of hurt feelings, and that's why you don't see a lot of people here. They basically given up. So I'm asking the commission that's voted in by the citizens to take a step back. I understand there's a time crunch, but you signing that piece of paper that says, hey, 900,000, 800,000, whatever it is, I guarantee you, they're gonna find a reason and a way to run that up to 900,000. There's gonna be stuff that comes in. There's gonna be other things that get added. But I'm sorry, I don't think I should be paying 900,000 for somebody else to build up complexes and then pocket it all. I think that there's other things we could be doing in this community, and if we have a pot of money sitting there, let's look at putting tiny houses into place. That's a conversation that, I had a conversation with you previously, we've had it with other people. That's what we're looking at with a lot of people these days. You know, we have so many people of our elderly that are in big houses that can be put up for sale, but there's nowhere to go for them to rent. That they can't afford $1,300 to $1,500 a month. You know, their house is paid off right now, but they can't afford that. I think that we are so blinded right now by, this is a means to an end. It's gonna get some housing here. It's gonna look so good on Hiawatha. But in all actuality, when it comes down to it, it is the tax dollars that pay. And it may not be, you're not increasing the taxes right now, but you're also not decreasing the taxes right now. And we've got stuff here. We've got projects here that can be done. If we can't get the flooding issues on 6th Street addressed because of the drainage over there, why are we putting $800,000 into somebody else's pocket to put their streets in and their gutters in and their stuff? I hope that the commission can take a step back and say, yes, I understand it's time crunch, but it shouldn't be at the expense of the citizens. It needs to be looked at. This information should have been made public way before. $880,000. That's a good chunk of money. And I can think of several projects here in town that address housing and address things that could all help. So, like I said, I'm just asking everybody to take a step back. I understand time crunch, but not at the expense of Hiawatha, not at the expense of the tax dollars, and not at the expense of the landlords who are here who are already doing things and not receiving basically any support from the city on that side, because I know if I came in here and said, hey, I need a new sidewalks put in here because I'm an elderly gentleman and a walker, I'm gonna be told to pay for it myself. You know, this curb and gutter is bad, yep, here's your seat, here's your paperwork, we'll pay this percentage, but you're stuck paying 80% of it. But yet, we're gonna give it to free to somebody else. And there's, like they said, you know, we can keep the lien on the property, but when you turn around and look at it, if other people have liens on that property too, because they've come in and they've done building and they've done other stuff and they've been hired to do stuff, they don't get paid for something, they're gonna have liens on all of it too, so where does that leave us? I mean, it goes back to that ice storm when we had to put regulations in place for how it was roofing and stuff. You know, mistakes were made, we had to make changes. It's that exact same scenario. So I just ask the commissioners who, like I said, are here because of the citizens, take a step back and don't rush into this. There's other things that could be used, and $1,300 a month rent, that's not looking at the majority of Hiawatha. And that money could be used to supply a lot of housing in other places if we all band together. I know the conversations were had, you know, take the money from different things and, you know, put it into a pool and help. There's been a lot of conversations that have been had that nothing got followed through on, and I think that by jumping into this and feeling like we're forcing our hands, you guys are doing a big disservice to the town. And I may be one of the only landlords up here saying something, but all the landlords are talking and they don't feel like they're supported by Hiawatha right now. So at what point do they just get done and they start selling off their rental properties? So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. What is the next big due date or whatever?
60 days, and so the next big due date, if this was approved, would be the planning. And so we would have to get through that process within 60 days. And so that process looks, and of course, I had some help with this today, which kind of gave me some clarity. And so we already have the preliminary plat. We have a planning and zoning meeting set up. This is for a rezoning of 2 properties, one of them being the property that's at Rooney Park. That is going to be zoning that property for right now A1. It's assumed to be A1. We really don't have it zoned necessarily, but it's for ag use, to R3. Now, as far as the zoning of that goes, we're only going to R3 for the 3.5 acres. That's not going to be for the 38 acres. And so the fear there is with zoning, it's kind of, it's one of those things, I think one of the big fears was we're going to be putting duplexes for the whole thing. I know that's, you know, we haven't had a conversation about what we really want the rest of that development to look like. I think that leaving the rest of that acreage off is the right thing to do for now, and just focus on the rezoning of the 3.5 acres. I was looking at the requirements for the planning process. The planning process is something that we can also look at tomorrow through the Planning and Zoning Commission. That is something that they can get comment on. They can have any of their comment. That would have to come back to the commission to approve that preliminary plat. Then we have to go through the final planning process, which it can even get more involved. The engineers will be a lot more involved. That's gonna be, you know, hard legal descriptions of where, you know, utility easements, things like that are. As far as when you get to that final plat, there, you know, we have to get the county involved with that, but we have to have all that done within 60 days. As far as the start of that process goes, that process will start tomorrow.
I mean, that's 60 days. A lot of work to get done in 60 days. And so
Much-
we'll put it off for another 2. I'm sorry, go ahead, Laura.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mayor. Go ahead,
Go
please.
ahead, Laura.
How much is the total on the grant?
You're frozen.
That's no good. I don't know what to tell you.
Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you. I was just curious
Okay,
as
now you're on,
to,
Laura.
can you hear me? It's
Yes.
on.
Yes.
I was,
Yeah,
Are you,
I was
So
curious as,
Laura, you're,
am I coming across now?
yes.
Frozen. Great. I was curious as to what is the total amount of the grant that we are receiving?
$650,000.
Okay, thank you.
so what I'm saying, to wait, to put this, to back this off for 2 more weeks, then that just puts, I mean, it would be challenging to get everything that has to be done.
I mean, not necessarily, and so that 60 days is only going to kick in, after this agreement is finalized. And so that's only when that 60 days is going to kick in, so.
And it is scary when you look at numbers, I agree to that, but, I agree with what Commissioner Vindor said, though, if we don't keep moving on with this, I don't know how we're gonna get houses built out there. I just don't, I don't know how.
but we could get houses if we
Very
sold the
cool,
land
Brad.
and allowed people to build out there.
Brad Scott.
Can you just leave your phone open so I can't hear everything? I keep freezing up.
Okay. Can you mute her?
I can hear everybody now.
Well, Laura, don't mute yourself though, because we can still hear you, so don't mute yourself if you're talking.
I think it should feedback.
On the Zoom.
Okay, are we good?
So I guess the next step is. Motion to approve the agreement between Red Real Estate Ventures and the city of Hiawatha for the development Fields of Beautiful Maples. Okay, you want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agreement between Red Real Estate Ventures LLC and the city of Hiawatha for the development of the Villas of Beautiful Maples west of Brennan Park as part of the MIH project. Any further discussion? No? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion passed 3-2. Thank you for the discussion. It's a hard decision to make. I think everybody on this commission has the best of Hiawatha at heart. We just sometimes have a difference in how that's gonna be done. So we're just gonna keep moving forward. Moving on to item 3, vacuum ironing construction contract.
Yeah, so this is just a, agreement between the city of Hiawatha and the owner of the car wash. And this agreement makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. I mean, really what this is set up to do is protect the interest of the, business owner that's going to be having his business affected. And so there's a lot of provisions within this that kind of change what we've talked about, although I don't expect any major, there's a provision in here that gets into it. If we have it closed down for more than 5 days, that we need to pay $4,000 per day. That's to protect revenue. I understand that. I've talked to the, contractor about this. I've had him in the loop the entire time. There's no part of this provision that he's not going to be able to meet. It's just, this is ultimately a protection for, you know, the owner of that establishment, just in case, but, you know, in the contract, it states that if we have the entrances blocked for more than 5 days, you know, we shouldn't have the entrances blocked at all. You know, we're moving the island and not necessarily blocking the entrance. We may have to shut down the electricity, you know, temporarily, unless there's a breaker there. I don't know the way that electrical runs. But, you know, that's what this is really intended to do. It's just be a contract, and it really is, you know, the landowner protecting himself. I mean, I can be in favor of that. And this is just, you know, what we need to do to get, you know, this process moving so we can get this project done. And so my recommendation is that we approve the construction contract between the city of Hiawatha and Bravo Ventures LLC for the relocation of the car wash island and authorize bidders.
I have a question if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Item 5.
Yes.
Yes, the relocation shall be completed within 10 calendar days after commencement of work. What happens for acts of God such as raining, if it rains all day or rains for a week?
And so I believe that that's going to get into where, unless the work is extended by written agreement of the parties, I believe that that's where that statement comes into that. Where if there's something where we just get 10 days of rain, you know, that's, the agreement's going to have to be extended in that circumstance.
What was the car wash guy agrees to that? Yeah,
There would be,
I would think you would.
in that circumstance, there wouldn't really be any impact to business necessarily, other than if we're in the middle of construction, maybe you know, the vacuum island itself is down, but other than that, the rest of the car wash should be able to operate as well.
I'd just like to add, this is a very isolated project. I mean, it could easily be covered with blankets. It's a, maybe a 4x10 area. So rain shouldn't be much of a factor even for this, so.
I'd entertain a motion. You're muted.
That's okay. That's all right. Oh.
I mean, I kind of read it last.
I'll make the motion, but I don't have the verbiage in front of me right now. I'm sorry.
To
To approve the contract with,
the city of Hiawatha and Bravo Ventures for relocation of car wash vacuum island and authorize mayor to sign. Is that what you're making the motion on?
yes,
And Tom?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the construction contract between the city of Hiawatha and Bravo Ventures LLC. Any further discussion or public comment? Okay, if not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Also, motion passed 5-0. How long? This is personnel, right?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that the city commission recess into executive session in the conference room for a period of 10 minutes to discuss matters regarding the issue of potential city personnel. Justification for closing the meeting is to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. The open meeting will resume at 6:45 in the commission chambers, and to include commission, city administrator, and city attorney.
Second.
Moving to second, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
No, for some reason it kept muting and unmuting itself. Sorry, he'll call me. It keeps muting and unmuting, just like it did just right now.
Let's make a motion that at 6:45, the city commission is called back into open meeting. The commission took no binding action during executive session.
I'll second.
Go to the second, any further discussion? Aye, Don, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
All opposed? Motion passed 5-0. GMI.com. Governing body comments. I guess I'm just gonna repeat what I said after our late discussion on the housing thing. I just wanna put out there that I firmly believe that everybody on this commission has at heart what they think is best for Hiawatha. We may not always agree, but I think it's, I think we have enough communication, we just need to keep moving forward, trying to keep it as positive as possible between all members of the commission. Dave, anything else?
I'd just like to congratulate our basketball teams for a great season.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Brian? You're muted.
I do not have anything. I'm sorry.
Okay. Laura,
Nothing, thank you.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moving second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passed by 0.
Aye.